humanity's benefit. And I would say it's man's inhumanity to man is my biggest concern at the moment, rather than with some of these beings that are literally trying to help us upgrade in awareness so we can see the truth.
Right. And I think we're talking about the same thing. I'm coming at it from maybe a different vernacular. I'm looking at angels and demons, and this goes all the way back to me. And people, you got to understand this. Okay, this is not old. This happened once before. We know it's happened in the past, especially if you're biblical, especially if you're a Christian. You can go all the way back to Genesis 6. The sons of God came down, found the daughters of men very beautiful, and took amongst them and had wives, and then the offspring of the Nephilim. These are what I really believe in my own head and my own perception, is that these are the spirits of the Nephilim, that we are dealing with interdimensional, extra-dimensional, maybe even time travel of some sort, where they are actually intermingling again with humankind. They did this in the Bible. We were warned that this happened. God tried to save everybody. He started over. He reset everything with the flood. When we're talking about this, and I think Mary makes a very good point, this is a very complex issue. You can't look at it at black and white. You can't look at it just from a mythology standpoint. But if you go back into all myths of all cultures around the world, they have this sort of the story about these sons of God, that they have intermingled with us before, that they have affected the DNA gene pool, so to speak. So this is not new, and I think it's probably happening again. And I found it interesting that you mentioned the jinn, and for people that don't know, those are the genies of mythology. And they're actually, if you go and start researching the Nephilim and understand the offspring of these sons of God and women, and human women, those were what they were. That's what this is all about. It's the same. It is really the same thing.
It's all about interpretation, and we have to understand too, for those, coming from a spiritual perspective, spiritualists and those open to spirits and what have you, that they often have a problem when you start mentioning extraterrestrials or the interdimensionals from an extraterrestrial perspective. We're talking about a whole range of different intelligences here. Some of them, without question, have visited this planet and a part of our genetic makeup are here. And the outcome of these interactions, as you can see from our surveys, 4,000 individuals so far, 85% of them saying that this interaction with these intelligences that they have often said is my star family or is my family, and feel very connected to them. The children will talk about their coming from the stars and the planets that they've come from, that they've incarnated into human form to change the consciousness of humanity into a more loving, compassionate one. And even in Buddhism, I was very interested in the Dalai Lama and his understanding of extraterrestrials. And he said, in his beautiful way that he does it, he said, if we receive some visitor from the galaxies, it's the same as a human being. They may be a little different, they may be different sorts of shapes, but basically they're the same. And furthermore, that he said, the same sentient beings, so respect them. Look at them as the same as yourself. We can immediately shake hands with them as if there's if they've got a similar kind of hand. We place too much emphasis on the strangeness and watchfulness that creates anxiety and fear. So he's explaining that there are many loving extraterrestrial beings that are visiting this planet, and some of them are probably walking on this planet right now, and you would not know that they were there because they're humanoid, even though they've not been born on this planet. But we've got many people that have past life recall, and this is really important, that saying, they were my family, they're my family. I've just come in human form this time, and I've come in human form to help change the consciousness of the planet. And these are young children often that will explain to me the planets they've come from. When you've got, a 6 or 7 year old that will say, I come from Orion, or I come from the Pleiades. This is a knowing, this is conscious memory, this is not through hypnosis. And they will tell me of their abilities, and they can say, I can see truth. I know when someone's lying to me. I know when someone is loving. I know when they're not loving. They sense energy fields. They see spirits. They see angelic beings. Some of them will see fairies. Some of them will see a whole range of interdimensional beings. They'll know the ones that are loving. They'll know the ones that are self-serving. So we're I believe, giving birth to a consciousness on this planet that is allowing us to wake up and to actually see what's going on, and everything, in terms of the whole thing to do with revealing, which is, what's happening now is everything is being revealed because of the shift in awareness on this planet right now. And it's time, because we, if we're not careful, what you were being shown, Sean, was the consequence of not waking up.
So that was an excerpt from the Waking Liberty Report with Sean Crone. We had a special guest, Mary Rodwell. Pretty close to Roswell, right? Anyways, this is one of the reasons why I love Flat Earth. In my previous video, I talked about how Flat Earth is so important because the fact that it really does debunk a lot of this mythology, a lot of this so-called pseudo religion, the New Age stuff. And it's things like this that once you start to listen to, you realize the improbability of it. And yes, of course, I'm coming up from a biblical worldview. And when I say that is, just like the flat earth is important, having a foundation in the scriptures definitely leads you to understand the difference between an alien and just it being rebranded. The fallen ones, what people might call the Anunnaki, right? Which in reality is just the Nephilim. The angels that came down and mated with the daughters of men. That's all it is. It's Satan rebranding himself, rebranding his soldiers, so that now we call them aliens. That's why Flat Earth, that's why the Bible is important, at least in my life. The more I look into this, the more it just is so blatantly obvious when you hear conversations like this from people who truly believe what they are saying. And the more you listen to people like this, the more you realize the MK Ultra mind control. As you heard, she used planet a lot. Now, I'm sure Sean Crone was definitely just entertaining her. And if you listen to the beginning of what he was saying, he was spot on. He was trying to allow her to see that, hey, from our worldview, we look at it as these are the fallen ones, the watchers. They have just rebranded themselves to be aliens as we in today's society know them by. And she was quick to say, well, that's depends on how you look at things, right? Because she's not looking at it from a biblical standpoint. She's looking at it from the way the world has taught us what these things actually are. And we already know that the scientism really isn't any kind of proof. It's just another new age deception. Guys, I really mean it when I say that this is why I think it's being revealed to us in these last days, because we can go and we can filter out so much stuff that's being bombarded at us. I mean, if you listen to the rest of this, which I will leave links down below, if you listen to the rest of this interview, it's all about the alien deception. And people who aren't even in the biblical mindset still know that things like Project Bluebeam and the alien invasion that seems to be really ramping up, and it just feels like that is the way that the New World Order is going to try to deceive so many more people. going with that alien deception. It's no wonder they're spraying the sky so much. The hologram technology is for real. But again, if your foundation is in truth and you see the nonsense when it comes to people who I really think are really MK Ultra mind control, then you know that a lot of this stuff is really just done away with. I don't want to take up no more of your time. This is just something that I would love for you guys to ponder on. It's really important. It's really important for us to get these things, because what does it matter at the end of the day if we have all this head knowledge and yet we're just the same as everybody else? We need to separate ourselves. We need to spread this information to our loved ones.